What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and to another video. So in today's video, we're joined with Tim Bratz, and Tim Bratz is currently the president of Legacy Wealth Holdings, where his company builds legacy wealth through apartments and commercial real estate investments. And Tim currently has over 4,500 units of cash flowing real estate worth well over $400 million. And he's really accumulated this massive portfolio in just a short period of time. So Tim, I really appreciate you taking the time today to join me, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, dude. I'm excited.
So the first question that I want to ask you, can you just give the viewers just a high-level overview of who exactly Tim Bratz is, and why you ended up into real estate, and really start the real estate investment company that you have today?
Yeah, man. So I'm a blue collar kid from Cleveland, dude. And I'm from Parma area. My dad was a cop. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, had a teaching degree, did some stuff there, real involved in schools. But yeah, I was going through school, and everybody's like, get good grades, get a good job, all that kind of stuff. And I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always liked, I was always doing something, right? I was burning music on Napster and Audio Galaxy and like all those back in the day, making CDs and selling them, or I was cutting people's hair or doing whatever in order to just try to make money. And so when I went into college, I got a marketing degree, and during college, everybody was making money in real estate. So like naturally, I just kind of gravitated towards real estate because that's what motivated me. So in 2007, I graduated from college, moved out to New York City, got a real estate license because I thought that's how you get involved in real estate, and started brokering commercial leases, like for retail spaces and office spaces. And quickly found out, dude, like the money is in owning real estate, not necessarily in brokering real estate. And so I wanted to become an owner and an actual investor. Only dilemma was I was 22 years old and couldn't buy anything in New York. So I moved down to Charleston, South Carolina in '08, and just kind of went through the motions of trying to learn and trying to, read people's blogs on real estate investing and watch videos on YouTube about real estate investing, and bought all the courses and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden the market collapsed in October of 2008. And so I was like, dang, I just showed up to the party and everybody's running out the back door, So it was kind of cool though, because all these properties flooded the market that were pennies on the dollar. And I was able to go and find something that was super, super cheap. And the only dilemma was like, it's very opposite of today's market. Back then there were deals everywhere and money nowhere. Today there's money everywhere and deals nowhere. If you buy into that, like I think there's still deals, there's still money, and even back then there was still money. So all these deals flooding the market. I had to get resourceful. I actually called up my credit card company and got an increase on my credit limit, and then wrote myself a balance transfer check and bought the house essentially using my credit card. And then I did all the work to it, fixed it all up, and sold it a few months later and made $13,000. It was the biggest check I ever made. And I was like, it's the worst real estate market ever. Everybody's saying run from real estate. I just got the biggest check I've ever earned. And no, I'm going to double down. So I did it again, got into wholesaling, got into fix and flips more. And then I started meeting people who had access to money, but didn't know anything about real estate. And they ended up putting it up as my private money lenders. And I started building a small rental portfolio. So did that, and then in 2012 moved back to Cleveland, Ohio, and bought my first apartment building over on the west side of Cleveland. And I just love the scale of that. Like I love the idea of negotiating with one seller instead of 10 sellers, negotiating or looking at one roof and one foundation instead of 10 roofs and 10 foundations, and collecting rent from one location, meeting a contractor at one location instead of having to go and drive all over town to go and collect from 10 different locations. So there was just a lot more scale in doing the investment in the apartments. So I started doubling down on that, and just, had a partnership, built up to about 140 doors. In 2015, 2016, we ended up liquidating and going our separate ways. And in 2015, I started, from the ground up again. And today I'm at 4,500 doors, a little over $400 million in portfolio value. We're selling off a chunk of that, and then we're going to go kind of take a step back, take a couple leaps forward. We're selling a lot of our smaller properties and kind of the C-class type stuff. So that way we could focus on just bigger properties, easier to manage properties, better long-term holds. And it's kind of where we are right now in our investment game.
And just curious, like this question just kind of popped in my mind. Like when you were in your early 20s, right, and you were just kind of getting started, would I have, and if I knew you at the time, like would I have known that there would have been this massive amount of success in your future? Like, was there a certain thing about you that made you different to just kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've been on hundreds of podcasts, dude. Never gotten that one before. I would say I've always had some sort of internal drive. I'm a believer that anybody can be an entrepreneur. I'm a believer that anybody can make money in real estate. I think, are entrepreneurs born or are they made? That kind of a thing. I think anybody can be made into an entrepreneur that's doing up to maybe a few $1 million a year in revenue and can have an amazing lifestyle. I think there's some people, and I think I probably fall into this category, that have this crazy burning fire inside of them. And I think I've always had it though, that wants to just light the world on fire and be a billionaire. Like I think there's a certain level of craziness almost, right? Like psycho in my head of like just obsessive type of a personality that I just want to like win. And I don't even know if I like winning more or if I hate losing more. I don't know which one it is, but just pushing the limits. And I think if you talk to some of my friends, back in college and back in high school, you might they'd be like, hey, who's going to get rich out of all your friends? They'd be like, probably Bratz. He'll probably do something crazy. Right. So I think I've always kind of had it. I've always talked about it. I've always obsessed over it. Not really about the money now, but it's more about impact for me. But early on, it was more about money and material type stuff. And then you get that stuff and you're like, it doesn't really, you're like, yeah, this is it. I tell that to people and they're like, yeah, I still want to try it though. Right. I still want to get all this. It's cool, dude. It's cool to have nice homes but really money just gives you options, right? It gives you options on where do you want to send your kids to school? What kind of car do you want to drive? Do you want to fly first class or coach? Do you want to go on this vacation or that vacation? And, it's just, and from a healthcare standpoint, gives you a lot of different options from being able to support your church or hospital or library. Like there's more options that you can do, ways to give back as well. So
right. And I want to just kind of jump back to when you first kind of got into real estate. So back in 2008, you kind of started off investing in real estate, and during this time, this market crash, there might have been a lot of deals, but it might have been a little bit harder to find money because you're a fresh 22, 23-year-old. The market crashed. The lenders probably don't want to give money to you that don't really have, a portfolio behind you. So during this time, can you just walk us through maybe the first couple of deals that you got into, what they were like, and kind of how you structured those?
Yeah. I mean, the first deal was on the MLS. It was a duplex in a C-class area of North Charleston, South Carolina. And it was listed for $25,000. And so it was super cheap. I went in, I didn't have any money other than I called up my credit card company, asked them to increase the limit. So got them to increase my limit up to $15,000. And I just made an offer at 12 grand. They came back at 20. I came back at 14, which was my maximum amount of money that I had. And they accepted it. And then I took a few $1,000s that I had saved up and put that into the property. And essentially it was like on my last few $100s right when it sold. And I got a check for like 13 grand. And then I just did more transactional, like quicker flip type stuff, like wholesaling, got into more of that. From a raising private money standpoint, I mean, the good thing about real estate is you don't have to have money in order to go and make money in real estate. You can actually go and there's a lot of different plays. You can arbitrage. Well, first of all, you can wholesale, right? You can go and contract a property, sell the contract, make a fee without using any of your own credit or any of your own money. Another thing that you can do is you can arbitrage like Airbnb. My good buddy's Brian Page, and he's got a course called like B&B Formula, where he teaches people how to just go and lease a unit for $1,000 a month, furnish it, and then rent it all out on Airbnb, like sublease it on Airbnb, and make a cash flow play. And you arbitrage the rent. So you might be paying $1,000 a month, but you're bringing in $3,000 a month. And so you make $2,000 a month, and how many of those can you do? And you don't really need a lot of cash in order to do that. So there's different ways that you can make money if you're resourceful and if you're out there looking for ways to make money.
Right.
As far as raising private capital to go and take down deals, I'll tell you that I have over $400 million of property.
Right.
400 million, and I've only ever invested $125,000 of my own cash.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Right. So to say, oh, you need money in order to go and buy real estate is a complete farce, right? You don't need to do that. But you do need to know how to raise capital. And I think there's three things that lenders look at when you're going to borrow money. The first is, what is the asset, right? Like what are you lending? What's a collateral, right? And real estate's a pretty easy thing to get people to feel comfortable around. Everybody, lives in a house, might own their home, might own rental property. They're familiar with HGTV and fix and flip and investment property and that the whole idea of it. So it's not hard to sell somebody on investing in real estate as the asset. Mm-hmm. Next hurdle is the return. So what type of return and is the reward worth the risk of them investing with you, right? So, and you got to look at twofold there actually is the reward worth the risk, and also comparatively, what other opportunities do they have, right? If you're talking to my dad, who only invests in very conservative stocks and certificates of deposit at the bank, if I tell him that I can give him an 8% return, he'd be like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Who pays? You must be doing something illegal to pay somebody 8%." Right. And then there's other people I go to who are very active in day trading and Bitcoin, or they're active real estate investors, and they do hard money lending and short-term, transactional funding and stuff like that. And if they're not making 24% a year on their money, if I told them 8%, they're like, dude, I make that every 2 months in my business, right? Like, I'm not interested in that. So you have to look at is the reward worth the risk, and comparatively, who are you talking to? Is this worth the opportunity for them to invest with you?
Right.
And then the third thing is the most important, which is you as the borrower and your credibility. And you know what they're asking themselves? They're saying, dude, does David have the fortitude to repay me my money? Mm-hmm. That's what they're asking. Is if shit hits the fan, is he going to go and work all hours of the night? Will he go get a job at Taco Bell working third shift just to make sure I get my money back? Is that the kind of person he is? Right? Is that the kind of character that he emulates and that he conveys to me? Mm-hmm. And if you're not 100% sold out that I will break my back and I will run through brick walls and I will make sure that you get your money back, if you're not conveying that to your investors, dude, they're going to have a lot of questions of whether or not they should invest with you, and they probably won't. So I'm super confident, and I have shown my investors time and time again that they will get paid, and even if I lose money, they will not lose money.
Right. Yeah, I think that's super important, especially if you're someone who's raising a lot of different money, especially because if you pay your investors back in the future, when another opportunity comes up and you didn't pay your investors back previously, you might lose out on that deal.
Dude, totally. So. And everybody sweats this deal, right? Everybody sweats the only deal that they're working on, and they can't see outside of this box, which I understand. Like you're confined. You're like, especially if a deal's losing money, you're stressed out about this one deal. Mm-hmm. And you're like, but dude, I've always neglected short-term gains for long-term like relationships and wealth building.
Right.
I've always taken the short term, took it on the chin, lost money, got kicked in the nuts, whatever that ended up being, in order to make sure that it didn't adversely affect me long term. And because I always did that, it's made it easier for me to have more success the longer I'm in this game.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a good transition to my next question as well, because back in 2008, there was probably a lot of investors that the one investor might have lost it all when the other investor might have made, millions of dollars. So what was the difference between those two investors? What did that one investor that made millions, what did he do differently compared to the other investor that might have lost it all during that crash?
Yeah, man. I mean, great question. I think that's one of those things that a lot of people don't really reflect on. You're like, oh, the market's collapsing, everybody run from real estate, everybody's losing money. No, you just hear those stories because that's what the news is painting a picture of. And that's what sells advertising and marketing dollars and commercials, right? And so like people want to see train wrecks, so that's what they report on the news. But just as much as people lost money in the last downturn, just as many people, maybe more, made money because they were on the other side of the coin. And I remember sitting back and looking at the two of them and saying, hey, these people lost millions, these people made millions. What was the difference? And I think just asking that question is very, very observant of you. And I looked back and I noticed there were several recurring themes about the people who were able to keep on making money. And I'd say one of them would be they always bought at a wholesale price, right? They never paid retail price for anything, versus over here, everybody's paying retail price. And then these people speculated on real estate. These people over here never speculated. So these people bought at retail price today, thinking tomorrow would be worth more. And when it wasn't, they couldn't sell it. They couldn't refinance it. They couldn't cash flow it.
Right.
Like that goes back over to here, the people who made money. They bought at a wholesale price. They did not speculate on appreciation. They actually created appreciation. They bought things that had a value add component where they could fix it all up and increase the value by putting sweat equity in. The other thing that these people did is they bought for cash flow, meaning if values go to zero, but you have an asset that cash flows, you have a rental property that throws off $800 a month. I don't care if values go to zero. You still have, it covers all your operating expenses, all of your debt service, and puts money in your pocket. You can ride out any sort of economic storm and wait 2 years, 3 years, 5 years until the market comes back, and it still has value, at least to you, right? So if it cash flows, you can at least cover the holding costs, which the speculators did not do. There's probably a lot more. There's probably, people who tried to force deals to happen versus people who tried to kill deals. If you couldn't kill it, then they knew it was a good deal. These people made bad deals into good deals on paper, and then they got exposed when the market crashed. The type of financing that they got. These people probably got recourse financing and personally guaranteed a lot of the loans. These people got non-recourse financing, and they got longer amortization schedules. They had short amortization schedules. They had variable loans. These people had fixed rate loans. So it's like there's a lot of little things, but I think the big ones are buy at a wholesale price, create appreciation, never speculate, and buy for cash flow.
Right. And I definitely want to get into all of that in just a little bit. And from our previous conversations, instead of you investing in 10 different, maybe single family houses, you would rather invest in just one 10-unit apartment complex because there's so much more scalability to that, because you don't have to drive around to those 10 different locations. You can just focus on that one apartment complex. So if you wouldn't mind, can we dive a little bit into your current investment strategy right now? I understand that right now you look for obviously value add properties. And then once you kind of get those units rented out, you like to do like a cash out refinance in 12, 18 months later, pay your investors back, give a portion of the equity to your investors in that deal for the upside. So can you just kind of walk us through your current investment strategy a little bit more?
Yeah, man.
Maybe give an example of like a $1 million property or a $10 million property, and just kind of like how the numbers work on that.
Sure. And what I'll say is, like, not every single deal falls into this box. It's why you got to understand multiple different strategies, multiple different ways to structure deals, lots of different exit strategies on how to move deals, make money from deals. Some are cash flow plays, some are equity plays, some are long-term, short-term holds. Not everything falls into this box, but what I typically try to buy, especially pre-COVID, was distressed apartment buildings. Just like there's houses with, tall grass and boarded up windows, there's apartment buildings out there that are neglected from a management perspective, physically distressed. They need some TLC. And so we always looked for those types of apartment buildings, and typically heavier value add. Like the more distress, that means more equity could be created in that. And those were a lot of the deals that we looked for. So we would go and buy, let's call it $1 million apartment building. So you bought it, and it's going to be worth $1 million once it's fixed up, right? And I think the important thing to understand is it's not, commercial real estate and apartments are not valued the same way as like houses are. Houses are valued based on a comparable approach, saying, hey, the house down the block, it's a 3-bed, 2-bath, same square footage, just sold for $250. I think I can get $250, maybe even $260 for mine. Okay. In commercial real estate, it's 100% based on the income approach, which means you take the income minus the expenses equals the net income. And then there's a multiple of that net income that the property is valued at for wherever it's located in the country, which is called a cap rate.
Right.
So it's very predictable what the value is going to be. You don't have to speculate of saying, hey, this house sold 6 months ago for this much. I think I can get this much today. This is it's dollars and decimals. That's all that matters. So I can take a look at an apartment building or an office building or whatever, and I can run the numbers and say, hey, this is what the rent could and should be. This is what the expenses are or should be, and this is what the net income is. Here's what the multiple is that it's appraising at, that it would appraise for in this marketplace. And so I know it's going to be worth $1 million stabilized value. Mm-hmm. Okay. My method has always been like the Burr method: buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. Mm-hmm. So I just taken that method from single family and parlayed that into multifamily. So if I'm going to be into a building that's going to be worth $1 million, I need to be all in for around $650,000, because that's going to allow me to then go and get a 70% loan at $700,000 and then pay back all the short-term debt or private money. So in this example,
so typically is the down payment like 20%, 30% for like these type of deals, or what is it
of the cost that you're in? So I'm gonna do a bigger deal. I'm gonna do a $10 million deal, instead of $1 million deal, just because it's a little bit different. If I was buying something less than $1 million, I would just get cash, use my own cash, or bring on private money, and then just buy it with cash and renovate it and do it.
Right, but I mean, even if it was $1 million deal, you'd probably still have to come up with, 20-30% of $650,000. So $300, so whatever. But you're just scaling it.
Right. So it's just, there's some nuances with that. But I would say deals over $1 million, there's a different type of lender out there for that. And there's bridge lenders, commercial lenders. If it's under $1 million, you're probably going to go to a local bank. And it's different. It's more single family-ish if it's under $1 million. If it's over $1 million, you can go to, it's a debt fund and a bridge lender is what they call them. And they're going to give you probably 80 to 85% loan to cost of what your all-in cost is on this deal. So if I'm buying a building, it's going to be worth $10 million. I want to be all in for $6.5 million.
Yeah.
That means I essentially need to raise about a little over $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that $1 million, let's say I'm going to raise
$1.3 million, and that's about 20% for 6.5 million.
And let's say I need some carrying costs and everything else. Let's say I'm going to borrow 1.5, and the bank loan is going to be $5 million. Okay, so the bank is going to, or the bank or bridge lender is going to give me a loan for $5 million. I'm going to go and raise 1.5 million from my private investors. That could come from one person as 1.5, or it could come from 15 people at $100,000 a piece. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to the bridge lender. They actually are okay with the money not coming from me. And I'm just telling them that I'm going to syndicate the deal. That means I'm bringing in outside investors for the down payment and for some of the operating capital. So they don't expect it to come from me. That's a big difference from residential to multi or to commercial. So I'm going to buy this deal. I'm going to renovate it. They're going to give me, part of that 6.5 million. That's to purchase it, renovate it, and hold any sort of like carrying costs in that deal. Over the course of, let's call it 24 months, we stabilize it. That means it's now fully renovated. It's rented above 90% occupancy at market rate rents. Okay, that's what stabilized means. Once it's stabilized, then I can go back to another lender. And I typically go to like a Fannie Mae or a Freddie Mac or a life insurance company or CMBS. Those are all, they're called agency lenders. I would go to one of them and they would give me a new loan on this at the new value. So I've been on title for over a year. So it's like seasoned, and I can go back to them. They'll throw a new appraisal on it. And let's say the appraisal comes back at $10 million. And in Cleveland, Ohio, and let's call it Medina, Ohio, I can get a 75% LTV loan on the new value. That's $7.5 million loan. With that $7.5 million, I pay back the $5 million from the bridge lender. I pay back the $1.5 million from my private money lenders. And then there's $1 million still of tax-free refinance proceeds that I get to put in my pocket or carve up amongst all the different partners in the deal. And so all the money, all the chips are off the table. It's just long-term non-recourse debt in place now. And all my investors have been paid back. And the first question is, let's go do it again, right? Like, how do we, do you have another deal that we could roll this into? And that's my entire model, man. I just buy distressed properties. I fix it all up. I rent it all out, put good management in place, put good tenants in place, and then I refinance, pay back my investors, and then we roll their money forward into another deal. And then it's just a number, like how many times can you duplicate that?
So just a quick recap then. So you get a property after repair value, it's $10 million. You have to go and raise, let's say $1.5 million. So you raise $1.5 million. You have a loan on the property for, what is that?
$5 million.
$5 million. And then you get the apartment rented out at a 90% occupancy. You go back to the bank, Freddie Mae, Freddie Mac. You get it valued at $10 million. You pulled 75% of that after repair value so let's say 7.5, you get left with 2.5. You pay back all of your investors plus a little bit of interest on their money that they invested with you. And then they all have their money back. Plus they get a little bit of equity in the deal to the upside.
Yep. So even though they got all their money back, and I paid them a good return while their money was invested. So I'll pay them usually 8 to 10% while their money's in place.
Right.
And then once they get all their money back, they made a great return, respectable return. And then they still maintain some equity in the deal in perpetuity. And that could be 20, 30% of the deal is carved up amongst all the different partners, all the different equity investors.
Depending on how much they invest.
Yeah, it would be proportionate. I take a chunk of like, let's say 20% of the total deal. And then depending on how much they brought, of that 1.5 million, they get a percentage of that. So that way they get a percentage of cash flows forever. They get a percentage of the depreciation forever. They get a percentage of any of those refinance proceeds. They get a percentage of any future sales proceeds as the property appreciates in value and we pay down principal. They win long-term with us. So it's a way that, dude, if you paid somebody an 8% return and that was it, somebody else dangles a carrot of 9% or 10% or 11%, they're going to go and follow that carrot. If you pay them an 8% return, give them their money back, and then you keep them as a partner in the deal forever, somebody else dangles an 11% carrot. They're like, no, I'm not interested because I can actually get infinite returns over here because this guy gives me actual equity in the deal long-term on top of an 8%. I'd rather go, Tim's my long-term partner. Right. And so it creates a lot of loyalty with my investors, and it makes my life easier because now I don't have to go and chase private money all the time.
Right. And then you just go back to the bank or the lender, do a non-recourse loan. So I wanted to break down a few things with this example. The first thing that I want to talk about, can you explain to the viewers exactly what a non-recourse loan is, just to kind of give a better understanding of what exactly that means?
Yeah. So it's not something that is typically found in the single family world. In the residential world, but in commercial real estate, if you have a stable property, the lender commercial real estate seen as a very low risk asset class. So they'll actually give you a loan where you don't have to personally guarantee the loan. So like, dude, I own $400 million of property. I probably have north of $250 million of loans in my name, and you wouldn't find any of them on my credit report. They're just not there. Unless I defaulted, then it would show up. But none of those are on my credit report. So for me personally, as your net worth grows, you also want that safety net to grow with you. And having non-recourse loans is a big deal. So I don't have to personally guarantee these loans. Now, there's something called like bad boy carve-outs. And that means if you lie, if you cheat, if you steal, if you're fraudulent, if you're grossly negligent, like if you took a loan and you never paid a mortgage payment on it, they're going to come after you personally, right? If you suck a bunch of cash out of the property and then go to Mexico, they're going to try to come after you personally. But if you bought in a military town and the military base went out of business and it's not anything that you did, the lender, their only recourse against that loan is taking the property back itself, not coming after you personally. So having a non-recourse loan is a very advantageous thing as you're looking to grow your wealth.
Right. I mean, can anyone get a non-recourse loan, or do you kind of have to have a solid portfolio of your own?
You need a stable asset. You need a stable property. meaning it's over 90% occupied, and at market rate rents, and it's in good cash flowing shape. They're gonna underwrite it the same way that a bank underwrites it. There's gonna be certain debt service coverage ratios and all that kind of stuff. But as long as it's over $1 million loan amount, anybody can go get one. You can get it on apartment buildings, you can get it on office, you can get it on retail, you can get it on hotels and hospitality, you can get it on self-storage facilities. As long as it's a stable property, you can get a non-recourse loan on that. Okay. Now the qualifications for that are threefold. You need a net worth equal to the loan amount. You need liquidity, personal liquidity equal to 10% of the loan amount. And you need experience in owning or managing that size building. So on the example that we gave before, on a $10 million building with a $7.5 million loan, I would need a $7.5 million net worth. I need to have at least $750,000 in the bank of liquid cash as well. And I need experience in owning and managing that size property before. And as long as you can qualify for that, you can get a non-recourse loan or any loan. And even if you can't, you can find somebody who does qualify and they can co-sign or sponsor the loan, which is the same thing. Okay. So then they sponsor the loan for you, but then they're kind of still at risk as well if they default on their payments or anything like that? They signed the bad boy carve outs. Yes. Okay. Gotcha. So to move forward a little bit, a few months ago, I was looking on your YouTube channel, and on one of your videos, you talked about the 3 most important things that you can do as a real estate investor. And those 3 important things were: number 1, finding money; number 2, finding deals; and then number 3, refining your operations. So if we were to go back to, the previous example that we were talking about, and you need to raise some money, let's say $1.5 million, but let's say I went out to do that. I never had experience of raising money before. So where does someone like me even start? Do we go to just people that we personally know, or are we cold calling, investors that can put up that money for us? Where's kind of the first thing that you start to raise money? Yeah. I mean, so first of all, if you're syndicating capital, and you're as soon as you start pulling 2 investors into the same deal and it's not secured by a note or a mortgage or anything like that, you're creating a security, and that needs to be registered with the SEC. So there's a few nuances. Right. I don't really want to go down that road because it gets really thick and into the weeds. Let's talk about if you had an apartment building you can buy for $400,000. Where would you go and get that money? Because you can go and raise private money and give them an actual mortgage and a note, and have them as an additional insured on the insurance, all that stuff. So if I'm just looking to go and raise money, yes, you can go and raise money. If you can secure it with a note and a mortgage, you can cold call people too. You can post about it on social media. You can offer a fixed return with a fixed, backed by a note, a personal guarantee, a mortgage, whatever you want to do. And you can actually go and talk about that. If you're going to syndicate capital, you can't do that unless it's a certain type of syndication that allows you to. But again, that's a couple levels beyond, I think, what we're talking about here. Okay. So where do people, where do you get money right now? Right? Like who has money? Right. Dude, a lot of people have access to capital. A lot of people have more money than you think. You can take somebody who's got money in a 401k or an IRA, they can put it into a self-directed 401k or a self-directed IRA, and they could lend you cash out of that. $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. I hang out with circles of entrepreneurs. Right. And so I'm talking to people who are launching products, who have their own businesses that are cash cows, who are selling businesses, then starting another one, and then selling that, and then starting another one, then selling it, and they're bringing in big money. I'm hanging out in the real estate investors associations. I'm going to landlord meetups. I'm talking to people I'm buying properties from and saying, hey, what are you doing with all that money that you're going to get from the sale? I don't really know. Why don't you lend it back to me? I'll pay you 8% and kick you some equity in the next deal that I have. Right? It's just, I talk to everybody about it all the time. I love raising private money because I know that what we have smokes everything else, anything else that's out there. There's nothing safer. There's nothing more predictable. There's nothing that generates positive cash flow like ours do, that's backed by a tangible asset that has the tax benefits and tax advantages that ours has, with equity upside, limited downside risk. And so I'm always out there talking to about it because I believe in it so much. And everybody I talk to, they know that I bring on private money investors, and I'm talking to them about investing passively, or if they have access to a bunch of money, telling them to go out and raise money, and then I can partner up with them and help them deploy it, and whatever that ends up looking like. So, I'm talking to everybody. Where do rich people hang out? I don't know. Hang out at the golf course, hang out at the cigar club, hang out at the car club, hang out at, I'm talking to everybody about it, and you never know who has access to how much money.
Right.
I've taken hard money lenders in the single family side and turned them into equity investors in the multifamily side. Just like I went through the transition of broker to wholesaler to fix and flipper to apartment owner. There's a lot of hard money lenders going through the same thing. They're tired of the transactional trading and high tax bracket type returns that they're earning in that. They'd rather put into a long-term asset, more tax advantages, and lower tax liability, and have some equity, long-term equity that it creates. So they're willing to take a little bit of a lower of a return because they're not having the tax liability on it, and builds long-term equity. So it's just, dude, there's a lot of different moving parts, and it's just solving people's problems. Everybody wants to make more money, and so just talking to people like, hey, what do you have your money into? I'm sitting on some cash. I'm trying to figure it out. Well, I'm going to put mine into some apartment buildings, right? Because here's why. Boom, 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 boom. Have you ever thought about that? No, I haven't really thought about that. Would you be interested in passively partnering up with me on some deals, right? And the next one that I find, I'll keep you posted. Dude, I put out that feeder to everybody all the time. Say, hey, I got some deals in the pipeline. Do you have any interest in passively partnering up?
Right.
And just seeing what's the worst they could say? No, I'm in the same exact position I'm in anyways. I think if you make a commitment to going and talking to 5 people a day, or sending out a text message to 5 people a day for the next 2 months, you are going to find yourself on so much private money, you're not going to know what to do with it.
Right. And then just real quickly to touch on the other 2 points of finding deals and then also refining your operations. Like when you say, and I know before that previous example that we did, that's like a perfect scenario if you can get it at 65% on the dollar. Many people out there might think that's unrealistic to find a deal that's worth $1 million and you can get into it and be all in for $650,000. And then also with refining your operations, I mean, essentially when you're buying an apartment complex, you're buying essentially a business. You want to find ways to, reduce your expenses and increase your revenue. So can you kind of talk about those 2 things, finding the deals and then also refining your operations, and how you kind of structure that?
Yeah. I mean, there's deals in every market. There's deals in your own market. There's deals in your own backyard. It just kind of depends on what your return metrics need to look like, and what kind of returns do you want. I could tell you that there are deals. I'm closing on one next month. I'm going to be all into it for 65 cents on the dollar. I'm all into it for 22 million, and it'll be worth about $32 million stabilized, maybe even a little bit more. So despite what's going on with today's market, just found one, right? We closed on a 550 unit in Houston, Texas, that we're all into for like 77 million, I want to say, and it's going to be worth about 106 million within 24 months. So like, that's not 65 cents, but it's 70 cents on the dollar, and on a big ass deal too. I'm buying a friggin' island next month as well. And that island, I'll be all into it for like $3 million, about 110 acre island. I'll be all into for around $3 million. I don't know. I'm going to do a little bit extra work. So let's call it 3.5. It'll be worth north of probably $6 or $7 million, depending on how it's valued and what kind of cap rate I can get on it. So in 18 to 24 months. So, dude, there's deals out there. I promise you there's deals out there. You just got to be swinging the bat. The Chrysler building in New York City, one of the most iconic buildings in the entire country, the 3rd largest building, I think, in New York City, traded at the end of 2019, right before COVID, or maybe it was beginning of 2019, right before COVID hit. And it was bought at the bottom of the market in 2010 for $800 million. Okay. Bought for $800 million at the bottom of the market 9 years prior. 9 years later, The market super hot in 2019. Office, commercial, money's everywhere, money's flying. Everybody's excited to get involved in real estate. And that building comes back on the market. Some group out of the Middle East owns it and put it on the market. It's one of these, like, you know, the price to be determined by the market. So a lot of times that then leads to a bidding war and prices getting escalated and all that stuff. A bunch of people looked at it, and there was like New York's weird. There's like land leases and some goofy expenses and stuff. And there's a land lease on the building that was going to increase in a couple of years. And essentially it would have eaten up like a lot of the income from the property. And so a lot of people looked at it and they're like, dude, these guys bought it for 800,000 or 800 million. I'm sorry. There's no way they're going to sell it for less than $1 billion probably. So it just doesn't make sense for me to pay that much. And they walked away from it. One group out of like, I don't know, the Netherlands or the Baltics or something like that. I don't know, the Swiss, I don't even know who the hell it was, comes in. I think they're Swedish, actually. They were Swedish. They come in and they underwrite it and they're like, I could pay 150 million for this. And they made an offer at 150 million. You know what happened? They got it.
Got accepted. Wow.
Got accepted for less than 20 cents on the dollar in the peak of the real estate market. Wow. When they had just bought it for $800 million 9 years prior at the bottom of the real estate market. They got this offer accepted for 150 million bucks. And I'm like, you know what the lesson there is? Swing the bat. You got to make offers. I made an offer on this ridiculous mountain house up in North Carolina that nobody was making offers on. And I made an offer and I made it on seller financing, and I got the seller to carry back the loan at 80% of the purchase price at a 4% interest rate for 10 years on this ridiculous mountain house. And then I'm going to Airbnb it. I'm going to make money off of it. And then I can use it for half the year and just blah, 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 right? Why? Because I swung the bat, because I was willing to make an offer that nobody else was willing to make.
Right.
And the seller thanked me for it. So you just got to go out there and talk to people, right? Let them know that you're looking for deals. Let the deals start coming in. Make an offer on everything that comes across your desk. And over time, deals, you know, all of a sudden, these seeds that you plant will end up sprouting out of the ground. There's going to be opportunities that come from it. So
yeah, and that just goes back to your previous point too. When you're trying to find money, you know, what's the worst that they can do? They could say no, and then you're back to square one. If you go and you make an offer on a property and they say no, okay, all right, I didn't get it. What's the worst?
Gotta always be prospecting, man. Always, always, always. And then the other one was just refining your operations, like you said, is right. You know, just consistently looking, how can we increase the revenue? How can we decrease the expenses, right? In order to increase the overall net operating income. Because if you understand how properties are valued in the income world, it's all a multiple of the NOI. So the more you can increase the net operating income, the greater the value of the property is going to be. And the only two variables that increase the net NOI is increasing the income and decreasing those expenses.
Right.
So you got to be looking at doing those two things all the time.
Right.
And so we obsess over it, right? Like every year we do a review and where can we cut costs? Let's shop the insurance. Let's appeal the property taxes. Let's install low flow toilets and low flow shower heads and LED lights and, separately meter the utilities or put rubs in place to then bill back the tenants on the utilities. How do we harden the property so that way we have limited ongoing expenses? You know, there's a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different things that you can do to increase the income and decrease the expenses. And so we're looking at doing that all the time.
Yep, you just got to get creative with it. So the last question that I wanted to ask you to wrap up here, if you were someone and you were, you know, maybe just graduating college, you were 22, 23 years old, and you wanted to get into the real estate investing space, if you can go back to when you were 22, 23, what would you do differently, if anything at all? And like, would you organically maybe build up a portfolio yourself? Would you go out and joint venture with other partners and get into larger deals immediately? What would you do differently, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, what I would do is I would find somebody with a lot of experience in doing exactly what I want to do long term, and I would link arms with them. I would go and work for them. I'd work for them for free. I'd work for them 3 days a week for free, and then work another 3 days a week at a job just to be able to pay the bills. I would figure out how to learn the business and fast track and learn from their mistakes instead of me having to go make my own mistakes. You know, it took me 7, 8 years of being really bad at real estate before I got decent at it, making my own mistakes over and over and over again. And what helped accelerate my learning curve was by joining a mastermind and putting myself in a room full of a bunch of other people who knew what the hell they were doing, and I could lean on their expertise, lean on their insights, lean on their resources, and it just connected me way more. So I would either join a mastermind or find somebody that can mentor you and lead you kind of through all that stuff. But I mean, everybody wants to get mentored and they all want something for free. It's like, what is the value that you bring to that person though? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, are you willing to work for free? Are you willing to do this? Or are you willing to shovel shit? Because guess what? I shoveled shit for 7 years on my own, at least 8 years, 9 years, I'm still dealing with garbage sometimes. So it's like, what is the value that you're willing to bring to, I mean, you're going to get a ton of value from going and working for somebody. I get people who hit me up a lot saying, hey man, can I pick your brain? Hey, can we hop on a phone call? Hey, can we do this? Like it's not, that takes me away from my family. That takes me away from my team. That takes me away from my business, right? From my kids, from my wife. And so like, that's not, you can't lead with what you want. Lead with what they want, right? Lead with what value are you willing to give to them? Mm-hmm. What's something that's important to somebody, in your position or my position or some other elevated, kind of sitting up on a pedestal of like, I want to be like that person, or I want what they have. Like, what value can you bring to them? And ask yourself that. And maybe it's, let me go work for you for free. Let me come and be your assistant for free. Let me, or pay me, just give me an apartment, give me some place to live. Like, give me some commission opportunity to lease or to sell stuff or to market stuff, or like, what can I do? Can I manage your properties? Can I help source deal flow? Can I help underwrite deals? Can I help raise money or make some introductions to people with money? Like, those are all things, like one of the things for me is I pay attention to who likes and comments and shares my social media posts. Like I look at that stuff and I pay attention to that stuff, and I make sure that if they ever send me a message, I respond, I reply, I'll engage with them, versus the people who just want to take, you know what I mean? So I hope that doesn't come off like the wrong way or anything, but I just, no, I see it a lot, and it's like, dude, giving knowledge and taking time out of your day, which is more important than giving somebody money, is like, it's like the homeless guy that you see on the side of the freeway, right? You want to give them money, you want to help, but you don't know if they're going to go buy drugs with it or go buy a shaving kit and get a job. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. So it's like, if I want to sit down and spend time with somebody and then they don't do anything with it, and it took me away from my 6-year-old daughter or my 4-year-old son, and hanging out and playing on the park with them, or taking my wife out on a date night. Instead, I was spending time with this person who just took that knowledge and threw it away and just lit it up on fire. Like, dude, I'm just not interested in doing that, right? So you got to lead with conviction, man. And I remember that one of the first guys that I mentored or menteed, I was a mentee, he was a mentor. I was like, dude, I'll shovel your dog crap. Like, give me whatever job you need me to. I'll wash your car. I'll take your laundry. I'll do whatever you need me to do. Just spend 2 days a week with me in order to teach me the real estate game. And you know what happened? He's like, dude, nobody's ever offered that, man. Let's just go grab coffee. I will spend time with you because I know you're going to actually do something with the information.
Right.
So I think that's the most important thing that a young kid can understand and internalize as they grow their business.
Right. Well, man, I appreciate your time so much. Your value that you brought to us was just awesome. And I know that you're a busy guy and you have a lot of things that you probably could be doing right now instead of talking to me. So that is, I really appreciate that a lot. And I'm confident whether 100 people watch this video or thousands of people watch this video, they're going to get value. So thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. So.
David, I appreciate it. Dude, I love what you're doing, man. You're creating a lot of value for a lot of other people. And, you're making deposits into your future before you ever try to get those withdrawals out. And I think that's really, really important. And man, I love the value that you're creating. So thanks for having me, man. If there's anything I can do, don't hesitate to reach out, and excited for all the good stuff in your future.
I appreciate that, man. And before we wrap up, where is a good place for people to find you? I know you have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, social media. Yeah, check out my YouTube channel, which is called Legacy Wealth. Subscribe to that, and then I'm always trying to put out a couple videos a week on there. And then I put out a ton of stuff out on Instagram and Facebook too. So that's where I'm really active. So yeah, just shoot me a follow or a friend request on one of those, and happy to connect with you guys. So yeah, man. Again, thank you for having me.
I know you also have a mastermind coming up too. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, I have something called Commercial Empire. It's a 2-day boot camp that we just teach people how to scale from single family into apartments. And so we talk about all the things that we talked about here. We just dive way deeper into it. So how to source off-market deals, a bunch of different strategies, and how to underwrite them, how to make sure it is a good deal or not a good deal, how to raise private money, how to structure it with the financing, how to stay SEC compliant. And then once you take the deal down, how to manage contractors and the value add process, how to property manage, how to asset manage. And then we talk a lot about the business growth side of things, of like building out a team and partners and what to look out for. And we have discussion panels and all sorts of stuff. So it's really good. If you guys are interested in that, go to commercialempire.com, commercialempire.com. It's $500. It's done virtually. And yeah, just hop on anytime. We got one coming up this week. Next one's going to be in October, I think. And that's it for this year.
Awesome. Well, hey, if you guys want to go check out Tim Bratz stuff, make sure to go follow him on social media. Go watch his Commercial Empire, commercialempire.com. And as always, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, this is your first time watching one of my videos, make sure that subscribe button down below, and I would greatly appreciate that. So that's all I have for you in this video today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take it easy.